Kind of questions y'all would like to ask, if you have any concerns, we'll do our level best to answer them. If we can't answer them exactly, I'll speak for myself, and I'm sure I speak for them when I say we'll at least be very honest with you and tell you what we can.
Yeah. As a long-term resident since 1971, I don't see much of communication between council and us. I don't see the avenues for it. The Courier's about it. Unless we get on some website, I can't even get at their videotaping of their council meeting. It won't work on my computer. Right. What avenues are there whereby we can hear from you folks in terms of campaigning? And once you're in office, which I'm looking forward to, okay, what kind of avenues for communication then?
Excellent question. We've discussed that over and over and over again, and that is extremely important to us. We will, throughout our campaign, be hosting events throughout the city where folks can come out, interact, talk to us, listen to what we have to say, let us know what they have to say, and when we become members of council, we would like to continue that. Again, my stance on this is we have all these beautiful parks. Now, this may not pan out as well throughout the winter months and days like today, but we can find other venues like this one. But I'd like to see, at a very bare minimum, quarterly meetings throughout our city. I believe that our residents have every right to have an open public forum to come out, stand up, and have interactive questioning. As it stands now, about your only place to go is City Hall for a council meeting, and really you don't have a lot of opportunity to interact. You can say your piece, you have 5 minutes to do that, but you can't really do a lot of back and forth there. So.
Glenn brought up some good points. Definitely throughout the year, we're going to be hosting events just like this one throughout the city. With the use of local businesses and area, parks and facilities in the area to go to you. We want to go to you to get your input and your feedback. We want that communication back and forth. Each one of us have websites, email addresses, phone numbers. Call us. Whatever it takes. We have put every avenue of media, availability and to get out so we can get your feedback. But on the same point of that, we're going to be pounding the pavement. Every ward will see our face, and we are going to be pounding the pavement to get your input and get your feedback so that we can not only serve as council representatives, but as members of the community and do the job that you are going to elect us to do.
As far as my opinions and my views, I've already started this process because this has been one of the main complaints that I have had within our city in the last at least 5 years. If I send an email, I very rarely will get a response from anybody. I haven't seen my ward representative in my area in the 18 years that I have lived here. It's a travesty when we are growing so much in Carriage Trails or Parktown, and they don't even recognize that they're a resident of Huber Heights. And I'm here to change that. And when I start having my quarterly meetings, and anybody can go to those. If your representative does not hold quarterly meetings, I would be more than happy to welcome you to mine. Yes. And what I'm looking for in a quarterly meeting is your feedback, your suggestions, what you're happy about, what you think needs to be improved, so that I can take those ideas and represent everybody and not just what I feel. And I do believe that one of the things that we need to change with the city is their website. Their IT department really needs to do a better job at being user-friendly. I know that the live feed, if you're not able to make the council meetings, you can't, it's so choppy that people get frustrated and just turn it off. I will tell you one thing that sticks home for me is when if you are attending any of the committee meetings, such as the Public Works or the admin meetings, they hold those in the conference room. And there's a big long table with all nice cushiony chairs for the committee members. But we as the taxpayers, we as the residents, if we want to go to this public open forum meeting, there is not enough chairs, and so we are forced to sit on the floor. And not only that, but it becomes so crowded that it becomes a fire safety issue. And I've raised this concern before, and I'm concerned that our leadership doesn't have enough to stand up and say, we need to move this into the council room. And if there is a meeting there, maybe we can ask them to come, because there's only 2 people at the meeting, at the last admin meeting. There was only 2 in the council room. And really, that should have been picked up and switched, because it's unwelcoming. And it kind of sends the message that, you know, we don't really want you here. We want to sit at our cozy table and have a working committee meeting, but it gives the impression that we as the citizens are not welcome. And we should never have to sit on a floor, never. And our safety should never ever be in jeopardy. And I know that the city does pride themselves with the safety of the residents, and I think they really should start with making sure that we are safe and not all the exits are blocked in these committee meetings. And I would like to see that.
Just a couple comments, and then I'll go on to the next question. A great question asked by the gentleman in the back of the room. A couple responses. Number one is, I think the most important thing that the citizens of this community can do is to vote for and put people in office who are here to serve you. That is the most important thing you can do. You've got to feel comfortable that the people that you're putting in office to represent you actually work for you, not for somebody else. My second reply to the question would be is that, quite frankly, I would also encourage people, despite the concerns about the floor space and the fire code, to periodically show up at council, because I think that council needs to get unvarnished feedback from the citizens of this community, because we're here because we know they're not listening. And we can solve that again in one of 2 ways. You can put people in office who can listen, and number 2 is that you can be a little bit more vocal in presenting your opinions.
I have a question for you. Finance.
Yes.
How do you think you can get financial information truthfully when our current mayor can't get it?
Well, that's another great question.
Great question, Al.
I'm probably one of the few people in the room when I go to a council meeting who can actually read the financial statements the city publishes. City manager can't do it. Council members can't do it. So when I see financial information, I'm able to, with some effort, determine exactly what's going on and whether or not you're being given a sales reply or you're being given an answer that is convenient. In my job, the folks that I work with respect me because I will tell them what I think, even if it's not good for me, simply because I think that the people that I work for, and that would be you, deserve to get honest, straight feedback. And that has not been the case on a number of occasions. I think that the one thing the city is doing a poor job on is presenting a full picture of their financial situation, not just a subset. We have in the city what's called fund-based accounting, which is a little complicated, which basically means you have money set aside for the police, money set aside for the fire, money set aside for the parks, money set aside for the administration, money set aside for emergencies, whatever. And we don't really have insight into, as a whole, how we're doing, because we can move money between the various buckets. So for them to come forward and cry foul that we're not doing well in one area doesn't necessarily mean we're not doing well in other areas. So, you know, I know that might have been a little long-winded, but hopefully that answers your question.
Your ears burning, Tom?
Mr. Hoke, you had a question, sir?
How much do we owe now? And how much do you project us to owe in another year?
So, do you want me to respond to that if I can?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
So,
Wait a minute, Tom doesn't even know those numbers.
so
How much do we owe?
Tom, did you want to comment before I did?
And I have a follow-up for after you're done.
Yeah, Tom, did you want to comment first?
I guess I'll comment after.
So it's a slightly difficult question to ask, because what we need to do is we need to look at the long-term debt plus the short-term debt, and we need to look at the money that's been borrowed from the various funds to cover shortages in other areas. My best guess at this point in time is that our total debt is somewhere between $60 and $70 million.
All right, and how much of that is being sold as well, the individuals, citizens don't have to pay it, businesses have to pay for it?
So that would be the TIF financings, okay? The whole point behind the TIF financings, and by the way, that keeps going up every time I ask what the latest number is, but it's somewhere between $26 and $28 million of TIF debt. Basically, the whole premise for that is that we're going to generate jobs and additional revenue so that the citizens don't have to pay back the debt on the interest. And quite frankly, it's not working out too well.
And that's a concern for me, because you know what that means? Is if we can't pay back these debt services, that means it's coming back on us as the homeowner. And not just the homeowner, renters aren't going to escape this either, because they have a property owner and they're just going to pass that on to their rent.
Can I have the follow-up, please?
Yes, sir.
I hear that, you know, well, don't worry about it, taxpayer, you don't have to pay for it. Businesses, well, there isn't a business in America that pays taxes. People do.
Right.
The taxes are part of the burden of doing business. If Jeff needs more money to pay taxes, we have to pay more for our cup of coffee.
Yep.
That is, to me, that's the three-card money game, and that's what really ticked me off in the original amount. We pay taxes. We pay taxes through the prices of the goods and services that the business is in. You know what I mean? Thank you.
I have a question. Are they actually misappropriating funds? Like when they borrow from this one to that one, are they doing that legally? Is it?
Well, to the best of, not being an attorney for counsel, or an attorney at all, to the best of my knowledge, that is not the issue. The issue is, in my mind, the prioritization they place upon the money that they spend. Okay? I'm deciding that I'm not going to spend the money on roads, I'm going to spend the money on a water park. Okay? Issues like that. I think that we need a stronger sense of priority in terms of where do we spend this money, how do we get the best benefit for the citizens and the taxpayers of this community.
Well, the reason I ask that is that sometimes it is illegal to move money from one place to another. And that means we need to find out what color this money is. In other words, where it's coming from, because and then call them on it, because you cannot take, say, like school funds and use it for the fire department or for some other thing. It's not. You don't have to be an attorney to know that misappropriation of funds that's kind of like a general thing that you learn about, that you cannot do that. You just can't do it.
I don't think that any of us would say that the city is misappropriating or illegally using funds. Our only charge is that they are deciding how to spend them the wrong way.
And I fully believe in my heart that we should not be in the seasonal entertainment business. We should be fostering companies that run 365 days a year, because we cannot support our families on a seasonal job. We just can't do it.
I never could understand why they did that either, because another center was losing money. The entertainment center in Springfield was losing money. And actually downtown was the most profitable one, the Schuster Center in the whole area. And when they did the study, and they should have seen that. It's going to be a loss with that center.
We're not here to throw stones, but I mean, we do owe you honest feedback because we work for you.
That's correct.
And they have not, as a whole, done their due diligence, is the term that I use, before they spend money. They have not looked at hard facts, good numbers. How in the world are we going to pay for the water park? How in the world are we going to pay for the music center? At the bottom line, every dollar that the city spends comes out of your pocket. Every dollar. And they don't have to necessarily worry about if the businesses don't generate the jobs, because their fallback position is the taxpayers are good for it.
Now, I want to just tell you that I am not for increasing any more taxes at all. And the reason why is because, one, I don't feel like our city has justified it, and I don't think we should be coming to our residents asking for more money when we don't really have a good control on what our city's finances are right now. And until we get that under control, we don't need to be coming to you asking you for any more money. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what's your opinion on our zoning department around here, maintenance department? Are you for changing it the way it is instead of the police department having control of it? Nobody, they're supposed to see what's wrong?
Can you rephrase a little bit? The zoning and maintenance are
I'm not talking about maintenance, zoning on,
the zoning.
for instance, well, I'll give you a good, come down Moorfield over, trash out on the street, they've been there for 2 weeks now. Our cars all over the damn city, can't do nothing about.
Right. Again, our.
I mean, it's all maintenance all over the city. We're turning a little ghetto neighborhood around here.
Our ordinance enforcement is very selective, and as it stands currently, most ordinances within our city are enforced based on reports. There's not any real active, again, it boils back down to active involvement within our city. There's, to the best of my knowledge, there's nobody going out to find these things.
We used to have
point
that.
them out. We did. Now it's become a matter of you don't like what you see in your neighbor's yard, you call the city, they get a report, then they'll send somebody out. Otherwise, that's the only way something happens.
And if I could just, add to what Glenn said, when you're in office for 30 years, you become complacent.
Get them out of there.
And that is the job of the voters, and that's what I'm asking you. Because, complacency doesn't do anything for us. And when you've been in that position for so long, you lose sight. You lose the vision of the whole purpose of why you were there. And I do believe that our zoning needs to enforce some of the blighted areas, and we need to work on revitalization. That needs to be one of our #1 goals. I may live up north, but I'm concerned about the whole city in general, and that means from Chambersburg south. And I would like to make sure that that town center initiative comes, not just as talked about, but followed through, and actions happen. I want to see it accomplished, because we deserve nothing but the best, and we're not getting that right now.
And to your point as well, again, we're going to be pounding the pavement throughout the year.
Absolutely.
My phone number is on my website. I'll be more than happy to give it to you afterwards. If you can't reach your current ward representative on issues that you have, call me. I'll come down there. I'll take the pictures and I'll bring them to City Hall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
Smell like potholes.
There you go.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, you brought up the point that schools and the city have to be talking on a consistent basis. And that's overly true currently. I've seen, from my research, we haven't passed a school levy since 2007.
That's true.
There's a problem when you have a school levy and fire and police on the same ballot.
Yep.
And you say, do I need fire or do I need schools?
That's right.
Do I need protection or do I need schools? Every other community that have put money into their schools have grown.
Yep.
I grew up here. I graduated in '93. We had the biggest school program in the whole area, and we were growing at that point. We've gotten away from that. So how are we going to be able to talk and communicate to be able to bring the schooling officials and the city back together again? Because they're not talking.
You're right. As it stands, I really don't see that happening too much. And I don't think it will without new faces there.
Yeah. Yep.
I've attended school board meetings. I know Mr. Shaw has attended many more than I have and has lots of information on that. But you're right. When they put a kind of opposing levies out on a ballot and people have to make a decision, a lot of folks will look at those things, and you'll notice that when a levy pops up from the city, they'll never tell you, if you pass this, we're going to provide X, Y, and Z. You hear, if you don't pass this, you're going to lose X, Y, and Z. And typically, they focus on what? Police, fire, and they'll go as far as saying the senior center. That's a big one as well. Well, they know that when they focus on earned income tax, meaning only those who are actively drawing a paycheck are going to have to pay this, and they also know that a large portion of our voting population, thank you all very much, are our older people that are many times retired. Of course, they're going to go with the one that's not going to cost. You know, you want to save these services and not take any money out of pocket, that's the one you go with. Of course, the schools are going to hit everybody that owns property, because that's the only way schools are funded. I think, and that's, the funding method is a little improper in my opinion, but that's a different discussion. But no, my point being, I don't think they're attacking this issue properly when they come in.
Excuse me, they're not getting just what people earn, they're hitting retirement account interest and royalties, because we just paid on them.
Wow, okay.
Okay.
We haven't touched Social Security yet.
I was just referring to their literature, so.
Well,
Now, I want to comment
know
real.
they're paid.
I got a question for Mr. Stan.
Okay.
Yes, how can I help?
Don't just think council, also think schools, all right?
Right.
We built new schools, 160 million or so. Tobacco money paid half. That means we as taxpayers owe about 80 million now. Am I right? Am I close?
I really don't know what that number is, so I can't comment, but you're right,
Okay.
we borrowed a lot of money.
But it's roughly, I think, what the city owes, which I have to pay.
That's
one way or
correct.
another.
That's correct.
Just don't forget that, all right? I'm not talking about state or national debts, I'm talking about local.
No, again, an excellent point. Pretty much everything that we see in this community, we pay for.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I supported building new schools.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, just don't forget that.
One of the challenges that we do have with education in general within the state of Ohio is the manner by which it is funded. The Supreme Court of the state of Ohio, and Tyler, you might know this, I don't, but it might have been 10 years or so ago, they did take the position.
20 now.
20? Okay, they took the position that they recognized that an unfair burden was being placed on the backs of property tax owners to fund the schools, but they elected to do nothing about it. So we have an administration in the state of Ohio who has been fairly active in not paying the fair share of education that they have in the past. They balance their budgets on the back again of the